Hello, welcome to today's Twitch stream, live coding with GRiSP. Um, so today will be one more time about the logger library. We really need to get this to a point where we can actually say, yeah, this might be announceable and be picked up by the community. We made some um, issues last time. I actually marked them as help wanted, but nobody wanted to help. So we have to do it once more. I promise that basically we will get back to like work with embedded systems more as soon as I can actually put the logger library on the actual embedded system, which is not ready yet because the main issue that we have is this one. Let me show you. Let's just stay a little bit in chat mode here. Not so many viewers yet. Let's see. Not there. I really miss editing chat. Typo. So yes, once more, logger library. In the meantime, I reread Fred de Beer's article about it, which is pretty good. I paste you the link. Oops. It's not Fred, it's Ferd. CA. And it's so all of the stuff here is good. Like I recommend reading all of it if you have the time. And there's an article from 2018. Erlang OTP's new logger. Pasting the link here. So that actually explains a lot more like how things fit together. And it kind of like unconfused me. I was a little bit confused. Oh, actually, I should actually show you the website I'm scrolling around here. So this is basically everything here. Third CA. This is all good stuff. And I've been reading this one, where it basically explains not only how the logger works, but what good logging actually makes. So if you're thinking about like how can you actually get better at logging, because there's a lot of horrible logging going on out there where you basically log stuff which is not useful, which is interpreting things. So there's things, state facts. Don't interpret them. Let the people who actually read your log interpret your facts. What's going on today? Only 3 viewers so far. Hope this will ramp up. Maybe we are entering holiday season. Maybe I should go on a holiday, not stream. Pause for a while. Well, a lot of people are offline logging, and basically, yeah, this has a ton of good stuff, like generally about logging. So that looks pretty much like what we do with Influx, about structured logging and a lot of useful examples about logging. And what I got from there is basically, because I was confused last time, that the handler is actually really called in the context of the actual process. So this, I mean, I was confused by some documentation from Logger. If I show you, because there was some. Was it here or was it in the user manual, user's guide? Logging, I think it was in the user's guide. because there's for a certain pre-built handlers. Let's go to handlers. Log event, error logger. So for certain of those, there's some kind of back pressure mechanism already built in. So that was, where was the configuration explained? Examples, default logger, SASL reports. That's with the SASL reports. Let me get you the confusing thing while we're still waiting. Good morning, T-Traf. How's the weather in LA? It's getting nicer here again. We had really bad weather the last weeks. So that was adding, protecting. Oh yeah, that was protecting the handler from overload. That was where I got confused, and I'm still a little bit confused, because that's basically the default handlers logger standard age and logger disk log age feature an overload protection. And that's all fine and good because they have processes and they have queue lengths. That's good to hear. Actually, there was still a rumbling there. There was some like volcanic activity going on in like south of Owens Valley. If I trust my Twitter feed, once I was in California and I felt a little ramble. I followed. There's a Twitter stream which basically tweets you all Californian. Lots of fun. Okay, so you definitely noticed it. There was stuff going on. I'm following this feed where basically they tweet, I think, every shake above magnitude 2, so which is a lot at the moment. So this dominates my Twitter stream because there's lots of like aftershakes and little vibrations there going on there. Controlling bursts, that was not the thing. Terminating an overload handler. So the terminating an overload handler, I was confused if this is also only related to these, like logger standard age and logger disk log. Probably yes. Yeah, because it's the same level. So that's why I was confused. I thought this applies to all handlers, and then I got confused if maybe basically there's always a process going on, but there isn't actually. This is very low overhead, no extra processes, no message sending if you don't do it. So there's message sending if you do it in a handler, but not otherwise. Everything is running in the process context. So this was right. Actually, showing you the history of basically last month. It actually was pretty good also. There was good weather, a little bit mediocre weather, but still heating up the buffer. Then we had a stretch of bad weather here, and now it's nice again. So you can always see how the weather was, seeing what the solar heating thing does. So for those who are new to the stream, the yellow line is the buffer temperature. And the green one is basically the solar flux, the stuff that comes down from the solar thing. And it looks like this because it actually is wiggly. Last 24 hours, for example, it's wiggly because I was still too lazy to actually install a new sensor on the roof and on the solar heating panel to basically measure if it heats up there to decide if I should actually switch on the pump. So I'm abusing this by every 15 minutes, I think it's 15 minutes. I switch on the pump a little bit and see if it heats up enough. And I think if it goes over 50, we actually keep it running, and then we are only loading. So there's an extra valve for loading. We're only loading when we are actually 5 degrees hotter than the buffer temperature, which works good enough, at least for now when there's a lot of sun. Okay, so back to logging. Oh, I need my website. I need my issues. So basically, that's the latest code. It's still out. And to kind of remember what to work on this time, or actually in the vain hope that somebody of you would actually pick up the work and work on one of those. I made some issues and added help wanted tags. So, but now we will kind of like work on this. So one is format MFR tags, like module function MFR A tags, save, edit, A. Oh, that's an autocorrect. Something wants to make MFR out of it. Format MFA tags, model function argument, more nicely, maybe in a generic way, than format local time, which we're currently not using. We're basically using the time on the server. And our major thing is basically that SASL logging. I kind of like pasted this in to document it. Actually sends us extra metadata, so we get a domain, which we actually want to keep. Then we get, in the metadata, we get some error logger flags, which we can ignore, which is good. So let me check if we ignore this already. So this is our handler at the moment. It's still only one module. There's basically the meta tags are formatted basically, so we basically get called with log, and then we basically get out of the config we get our socket host and port, and then we call the send function, and then we get out the level, message, and the metadata. And the tags are formatted with meta tags, like this line here. So meta tags is this function, which basically folds over the map of the meta tags, which is always a map, and calls the function format tag on them. And format tag basically does certain things. Like, for example, if you have an MFA argument, since we don't know how to format it yet, we just drop it. We just return the accumulator. It's the same with time. The report callback we don't want anyway. The error logger stuff we are already dropping. So error logger, the old logger, metadata, from here we are already dropping it. That's good. And then we have logger formatter, which is just metadata for us, and then we just call this actually pretty wrong function, so this needs also to be improved. Getting notification on my watch. So we also want to format domain in a more clear way, because I think that confuses SASL. So the thing is, you probably want to kind of like split this out by value. So for example, now let's do special. I mean, for the tags, we can actually do special things for special tags. For example, for the domain, we actually get the list. Is it always a list, or is it sometimes only an atom? Need to look this up. handlers, handler callback function, adding handler, changing handler, filter config. So we have a log event here, and we have the metadata here, and the domain is a list of atoms. So that's fine. So we format the domain nicely by calling lists join. What do we need to separate for the domains? Maybe a slash, like a path. I think I like the path. Slash, and then we do lists folder, and we can fold the function atom to list, so making strings out of it. Function atom to list /1. And we want to start with an empty list, and we do the dlist. So that should actually do the trick. And of course we want to prepend this to our accumulator, which is a list of the actual strings, and that replaces the just return value. So the question is, does this work? Let's see. Let's try this a little bit out. Just my tryout shell. So if we pass this a list foo, bar, do we actually get what we want? Atom to list. It doesn't like atom to list. Probably need Erlang atom to list. Atom to list called with 2 arguments. Oh, actually, we don't want to fold, we want to map, haha, because we want to then join it. Yeah, there is no lists map 3, because there's only a lists map 2. So this works. And then in the code we do lists join, not coin join. Yeah, then it does. Does make an IO list. So we do IO list to binary to actually show it. Yo, I think that's what we want. foo/bar. So I think we found one problem. This is not a fold. This is a map. We map up atom to list over our domain list. Perfect. There's one little issue that we should add the key equals to the whole thing. So after the join, we do basically domain equals plus plus. I think that should work. Let's just try it out. Oops. Ah, we are missing the Erlang atom to list, which makes my line too long now, which is a little bit annoying. And now we're missing the IO list to binary, lazy typing. So you wrap this in IO list to binary. So that's something that InfluxDB should like, actually. Ah, hi Daniel. Oh, cleaning up. Yeah, cleaning up is much more fun than watching me writing code, of course. Yeah, Erlang atom to list, well spotted. So the thing is, if you want to, so while you can actually call atom to list, so you can actually call this because it's a built-in function, but it's actually what you're calling is the function Erlang atom to list. And if you want to, yeah, I was just joking. And if you want to make a fun out of it, then you actually need to do this. Oops. And then you get this fun. And if you leave away this Erlang here and rely on this other thing, then actually the magic doesn't work of the built-in functions. There's in the Erlang module, you have functions you can call if you call them directly without Erlang, but there is also a lot of functions which you need to put the Erlang in front of. That's usually the new functions, because when you add built-in functions that don't need a module, then you're messing with people's local function names. So everything that's added after some point basically needs an Erlang in front of us, and you can see this if you look at Erlang. That should actually work. Yep. Then you see a lot of function here. Actually, it's not shown in, for example, Erlang make tuple. See, you need, but map get is interestingly of so I wonder what the reasoning between like putting Erlang colon in front of new functions in the Erlang module and not. Because here we have a function that's clearly added in OTP 21 and is called only map get and doesn't need an Erlang like make tuple. So apparently because it's needed so quite often, probably. Map size is 17. So this is not very, because if I in my module, if I would have a function map get, a local function, and call that, then suddenly this would shadow the global map get. So I thought all the new stuff has Erlang in front of it, but yeah, wrong. Learn something every day. So, but for the fun, we need this, and now it should work. So now we should actually get the domain through. Can't really test it yet because we actually need to make something that does useful things with all the SOSL stuff. Where's the SOSL logging? So we're getting the domain. We are skipping the error logger already. we are keeping the file, then we can get to the message. The message is a little bit differently formatted because we get basically a tuple with report, which is normal. We get a report, but then we get two maps. We get then we get one map, but the map has basically only two keys. One is label, supervisor progress, the other is report, and then we actually have a report inside here. Basically, that's basically these key value tuple things. Or it's actually not. Oh yeah, it's actually consequential. So it's a report in a report. So we actually need to unwrap this once and probably also get this into the metadata, even if it's in a message here. Because this is from supervisor, it's a supervisor progress. I think this is metadata. So we have basically here, we have report. Oh, that's interesting. It's actually not different because it always has the report key, the map. Let's look up the documentation. What's the definition of reports? Where's my logger? Nope. No? Oh, I lost my logger window. I think I navigated from here to the logger, yeah. So we have the metadata, so we can get a PID. PID is fine because InfluxDB doesn't care about like the angle brackets in the PID. So as long as you don't have comma, quotes, or equal signs in your stuff, it actually cares a little bit more about metadata. We can actually look it up. The timestamp we don't use yet. The MFA we are still skipping, which you probably shouldn't. And so this is interesting because if you look at the SASL logging thing, what we get here is we actually, let me check logger format, title progress report, supervisor. So the metadata MFA is actually supervisor report progress, but we don't care about this. We actually want this MFA in our metadata. So this is a little bit a messy situation. And I'm actually thinking about, I mean, we can just implement it directly, but I'm thinking about like maybe a filter that actually maps these SASL stuff into stuff we can deal with, maps this into the metadata and other things. So yeah, but we can always refactor this somewhere else. So, but I wanted to look at the logger thing, getting distracted here. So we have this metadata, and in general we have atom, term, file and line, domain. Oh, actually, there's a log event domain. Oh, filtering based on domain. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, but we want to actually have the domain in our thing. I don't know if you need to actually deal with report callbacks. Message fun. So let's look at the message. Message is either IO format and term or a report. And then let's see what the report tells us. The report is either a map or a tuple list. I'm confused. So why do we have this double wrap here? So we have a tuple and then we have a map. But it doesn't tell us. So I'm assuming, so we have a tuple. So apparently we already put in this report for, oh, that's already put in for Sasl. So maybe a comment here is special. So this is the wrapped report in our Sasl things. And we also want to actually get out, so let's get me back to my ticket. Sasl logging. So we actually want to actually strip this report thing and get the module function argument into the metadata and probably get the label out here too. So we're actually looking for report equals report, and in addition label equals label. And the label is, well, it's a question. It's not defined anywhere. And the Sasl logging is actually built into the supervisor. So maybe we should look it up how the supervisor actually creates those. I hope this is not a too deep rabbit hole. So, oops, OTP, GitHub, LM OTP. Lib, I think is part of kernel. Let's look it up. So here's the whole disk log stuff. So we don't need Sasl anymore for Sasl logging. There's the whole logger stuff, the new stuff. Oh, what supervisor is not part of kernel. Interesting. Was this part of standard lib apparently? So let's look at standard lib. Source. Supervisor. So there we are already. So this was quick. It includes logger.hrl, and we defines a macro, report error, reason, child, supervisor name, log error, label supervisor error, which is kind of probably also using for progress reports. Report, supervisor name, error context error, reason, offender, extract child, domain, OTP Sasl, format OTP report, Actually, this is a different, because what we get here is supervisor progress and the label, progress report. So this is a different, oops, macro. So that's interesting. There's also a report progress. Which probably doesn't use this macro. Ah, 7 matches. So error in progress reporting. So extract child, we get basically the child MF args. That's interesting. Report progress, there we are. Report progress. Label supervisor progress, report supervisor name, etc., etc., etc. And then the extract child here. So now I lost what we were actually trying to look up. Basically see what's going on with the label. But it always puts this label in, supervisor and whatever. So we can have supervisor and then whatever. Well, probably you should just make a key value out of it. I mean, it's a tuple. So what we want to do is, oh, that's interesting. So we already made our meta tags above here, and then we want to separate this. So we really need to answer the question, like the module function argument of a supervisor report, do we want to have this as metadata, or is the proper metadata actually the supervisor? I think maybe we shouldn't be too fancy, also because it looks complicated. But I think the label we just attach to the report basically. So report values is probably label report. So we get our supervisor label here. And I'm spotting that we are still logging into this whole thing. That should be configurable. Definitely. So we're making an issue here. So actually, new issue, make measurement. So are we already, what's our database actually? Oh, the database is actually configured in the UDP handler. Make measurement name configurable. With make it configurable and second have a more useful default. Logger for it. And labels. Well, yeah, I think it's almost a bug. I wanted, and I think it's easy to fix. So one more issue. So if you're bored during the week, don't forget to look at the issues and actually maybe pick one up. Otherwise, we might have to do logger forever in this Twitch stream. Now, I think I would just leave the logger once we kind of like have the source logging done, and it's kind of halfway sane and usable on the GRiSP board, because then we put it on the GRiSP board, and then we show the log content as what did I want to say? As basically as annotations in the Grafana thing, all the errors and supervisor reports probably. So it's actually, let's look at this. So what is actually the level we get from this? Oh, the level depends, yeah. True, makes sense. So I need to drink something. Where's my tea? So we were at basically a special treatment of SASL logs. We want to put the label in, which says then supervisor progress, which is nice to have in the values. The levels and the tags we just keep. It's a little bit a pity that we can't have the supervisor and the tags. Do we have something about supervisor in the meta tags so we can actually pick this out? Domain, error logger, tag, info report, type progress, file supervisor, line, logger formatter, time, supervisor report progress, fun logger, OTP, time. Well, we could pick the domain out here. But yeah, if somebody wants to filter for supervisor reports, you can always basically filter for OTP/SASL, which we all now have. So the other thing is, which I didn't like yet, so the tags are probably so far fine, but the entries, that's basically the values. So short repetition, InfluxDB distinguishes between, like, you have a measurement, then you have a group of tags, and then you have a group of values, your actual entries, and then you have an optional timestamp. And the tags are supposed to be strings, and the tags are primary keys, primary indexes into the database. So you don't want to have, for example, tags that change very often. Like if you would put a unique ID into this would not be good, because you get one every different time. So you basically get lots of entrances in your primary index, and it's not so super useful then, because it's kind of like of the internal structure of the database. But the format entry is also not really a robust implementation, and we want to make it more robust. And for that, I actually looked up the line protocol, like what you should quote and how you should quote. and what you should actually, the data types that it actually knows about. So we basically have floats, which is everything. And then there's actually also integers, which have an I attached to it. So then it's stored as an integer, which we could be nice and actually, because we know what's an integer and what's a float. And then we have strings, which probably we should quote, but about quoting a little bit more. And then the only thing that kind of like is otherwise allowed is booleans. So we should actually have a special treatment for Erlang's true and false. Just pass it through. So actually, is boolean for Erlang? Probably not. Oh yeah. Nice. Okay. And how good is it? Does it accept this? No, it's the real Boolean. Okay, that's good. So we want to have a few special formattings for special things, and then we test it out again. So we want, we basically have these two format entry things. One calls the other, so that's the actual one that we want to extend. So we want to have special versions of this. So the key we always assume is a nice atom. And for example, when I write is Boolean value, then we can really actually then we can have this one. We shouldn't probably have this one for other stuff. Well, but that's the fallback, isn't it? But probably we want the fallback. We want actually to pick out strings, and the fallback has quotes, and is Boolean should not have quotes. So we copy this fallback for is Boolean and a semicolon. And then we want a special thing for floats. Is float. Oh, actually, is float can be dealt exactly the same as is Boolean. So is Boolean or is float. Who knows about this in guards, like this, the meaning of semicolon and comma in guards? I mean, you could also write, just say it like or else, but a nice and complex way to actually combine these things is semicolon for or and comma for and. And how can you remember this? So this is important. What is the meaning of semicolon and comma and dot in Erlang, basically? Because it always means the same. So, I mean, dot is easy because it's the end of a sentence, like English sentences, and it basically comes from Prolog, and in Prolog, all these signs come from Prolog, and in Prolog basically was a language where they wanted to do like linguistic stuff, or it actually was used by linguistic stuff, and they want to do natural language understanding. So they actually put the signs from natural language in there. So it's actually most natural punctuation in programming languages. Before I get burned at the stake for this really egregious sentence, of course, there's a lot of opinion there, but it's actually pretty natural, and it actually works exactly as in sentences, pretty much. So what we have is colon end of things, end of a sentence, end of a function, and then we have semicolon and comma. And comma basically means sequence in a function, basically one statement and then the next statement in a sequence. So which you could read like run this and the next one and the next one and the next one, which is and. It runs all the statements that are, like, if you have a function, let's get an example where we have like a few things. So there's no nice sequence. We have nice short functions here. There's no good example. So here it runs this, and because there's a comma, and then it runs this. So basically it means and then. And semicolon means basically an alternative, which you can also use in English language, like separate different parts of a sentence, which are a little bit alternatives by semicolon. So basically, in a case statement, you either run this, or you run that, or, so there it means or. And this consequential is actually extended to guards, where basically comma means and semicolon means or. And be careful, because the semantics is a little bit different if you write or else or semicolon. And I think the main thing is when something crashes. Because in a guard, if a guard crashes, it actually means false. It doesn't crash anything, it just means false. But if you have a logical thing joined with or else, then the whole thing crashes, and that kind of like I mean, or else probably is still the same, but and else, like if and also, if you have basically an and between two entries, like a written and the first and the second one crashes, so you would expect like this would be false, but no, actually and works also. There's some logic that doesn't work. I can't think about it anymore. So if you have foo and bar, so if it crashes, it's just false. And basically what we get is an implicit and. Yeah, we get an implicit and, because if any of these crashes, the whole thing crashes. So this is also an and. So and works well, but if you do or else and basically bar crashes, that would be just a false. But if foo is true, that should be true. But because of bar crashes, the whole thing crashes and is false. So different semantics here. And if you have foo semicolon, basically it's more natural. So if any of those crashes, it's just a false. Just saying. So it does make a difference, but this is. So if it's either a Boolean or it's a float, we just use the tilde p. So we just use the default formatting from Erlang with p. That's fine. Then we could actually add a special thing for integers. Is integer, because then we need to append an I. So it would actually store it as an integer. So we take the same IOLib format and just put an I behind this. And what else could we get? We could get a string, which could maybe also be a nested string if we built it with some IOLib thing. So we could actually use, there's a function for that. We could use, I think that's one in IO. No, in IOLib. It's in IOLib. And deep char list. Returns true if term is a possibly deep list of characters in the Unicode range, otherwise false. Since InfluxDB is fine with Unicode characters, that might be just our string thing. But that's not a guard, so we actually need to make a case. So we actually need to make a case into the last thing. No, we just make a default one, and then case value of. Need to write it here because it's not a guard. So if it's a deep char list, we do the following. We do the IOLib format, but we use S for that because it's a string. And also we want to put, we put a quotes around it. I think that's wrong. I tried it out before. So if you do IO format of something something a string tilde s, and you have a string ABC, then that is fine. Oh, let's put a end of line behind it. So that's fine. But what if we have a quote inside? Oh darn, we should escape the quote. Otherwise, InfluxDB would be unhappy. So actually what we want is tilde p here still. Because then you get a quote, and then you get even outside quotes. Ah, that's nice. That's nice. So if it's actually a deep char list, then we keep the tilde p. We keep the normal tilde p because it does what we want. And if it's not, then what do we do then? Oh, actually, we keep the tilde p, yeah, and then it quotes it. So what have we now? It's not an integer, it's not a boolean, it's not a float. And it's not a string. I mean, what we could do is actually assume that it does not contain any strings. Ah, this is annoying. I think we need to quote strings afterwards. Oh, I hate this. This is no fun. But it's the clearest logic, basically. So we print everything, anything that's basically Boolean, float, string, whatever other stuff. We print with tilde p, and then after the fact, we go through the string and actually escape all quotes. Ah, sorry. That's the cleanest solution. Is there a function for that already built in? Where would that be? Not in IO, I think. Is it in list? Escaping? No, there's no escaping. But join is in list now, but there's no escaping. No. So it's probably in string. String. So let's see if we see anything. Case fold, center chars, chomp, character concat, copies, cspan, equal, find is empty, join, left len, lexemes, lowercase. No, doesn't look like it. Ends lexeme. Strip, split. What does actually slice do? String start length, ah, that's boring. Subword. No, come on, there's no quoting. And there's probably also nothing in Erlang, I think. None of you has an idea. So, but then we need to do IO list to binary and integer to binary, integer to list, IO list size, IO list to binary, IO list to IO vec. What's that? What's an IO vec? List of binaries. Ah, inif inspect IO vec. Oh, that's for the vector IO. Yeah, okay. Oh, there's a function for that. I didn't know that. So we would need to do IO list to binary because we could have an IO list here. And then we need to do the escaping. And there's no IO list to list because you normally want the binary. Oh yeah. So does tilde p always return a string, or does it return IO lists? I mean, IOLib format always can always return a. I really hate it when you actually task is actually pretty simple until you actually get to do the actual stuff. Oh, that's not the right thing. Maybe we find something in IOLib. What's build text actually? Build text, format list. And then I get characters. Format list is either a character or a format spec. For details, see scan format. Returns a list corresponding to the specified format string where control sequences have to be replaced with corresponding tuples. Pass to build text have the same effect as format args. Unscan format to get the corresponding pair of format and args with every star corresponding argument of numeric values. Okay. So apparently there's a few helper functions where we can actually take apart formats. But what if I do IO format, data, and then we get chars, and chars is a character and more chars. But that's not true. That's actually wrong documentation. I show you. Oh, it's actually true because we don't get binary IO lists, do we? So from IO format, we always get stuff like tilde p, and then we have like foo bar 3, and put commenter in between. Oops. Oh, that was one tilde too little. Still a string. Oh, it's IO format, but IOLib format actually gives you a nested list of strings, of characters. That's an interesting thing. So we never get binaries here. And basically as format. We're probably also not allowed in binary format. Let's see if it could be an IO list. Ha! But we still don't get the binary. We get really a list. Actually builds a list out of the stuff. So we get a nested list of characters, which we could probably, that's cool. So this nested list of chars we could actually quote. Let's see if there's something useful there. Quote chars. Chars. And to quote. So chars can be a list. It can actually be a char too. Well, no, it's always a list. It's a list of char and more chars. So if char, if the current one, if we have to quote here, to quote in the beginning, then we return another list of chars. Do we need a separate quote character, or do we, oh yeah, no, to escape. We call it quote. Oh, it's actually not quote characters, but escape. Escape chars. Let's use shorter names. Let's just use Q. So if we have a Q in the beginning and we have an escape, then the result is we put an escape in front. So we go one nesting deeper? We could actually escape the whole thing. Yeah. No, we don't do this. We do escape, comma Q, and then we need to actually call the escape chars for the chars. So we put an escape character in front, and then we recursively call it on the rest. So another thing is that we have something, we have a char here, and chars, let's see, and still Q and escape here. I love writing these functions. Actually, where's my show parent mode? Yeah. Q escape. Okay. So C is not to quote. So we can just keep it. Now we can't keep it. When is there a thing called isChar? When is integer C, So it's just a char. Then we can just keep it and call escape chars on the rest. So we recurse in, or if it's just a list, then we just go to the right. And if the first element is actually on the list, when is list L, then we need to recurse into the list and into the rest. So we escape chars, and now I discovered a bug which you didn't see, but it's only 3 viewers, so who's supposed to notice all these bugs? Escape chars here, and then escape chars. So of course we always need to pass the arguments through because we don't have a one. So this is Q, comma, ask, and again Q, comma, ask, and here too. Oh, we forgot it in the argument also. Q, comma, escape, Q, comma, escape, and again here, Q, comma, escape. And then we have another one, basically empty list, empty list. Yeah, we don't look at the characters here. Just return the empty list. And then that's the last one. So this should actually go through these nested characters without converting into anything else and escape all characters Q with the escape character esc. So if we use this on this IOLib format, actually, I need another buffer. So where's my rebar shell? Do we actually no, we don't. So that's, I still don't know how to, so that maybe it's time to look it up. How to do a rebar compile from a rebar shell and pass arguments. 3 do, no, not RE3, R3, do arguments. Nah, that was not good. Rebar 3 shell. Oh, there's an article from Fred. So maybe do compile, do CT, do dialyzer. And how to pass arguments, how to start apps, script file, yada yada. So maybe we want the commands, shell, shell. Or we can actually call rebar 3 compile now, and not rebar 3 do compile. So do namespace command. So does compile take an argument? Let's see. R3 compile. So that would be export all. Let's see. Bad arg, it doesn't like it. So we can't. Because if you compile in the shell, you can actually actually need to make a note to ask on this. So I don't like to put this in here. I usually do this when I compile in the shell, because syntax errors. Yeah, we didn't compile for a while. No wonder. 8.6, and I think it's what did we do here? Format tag, domain, yada yada. Ah, we're missing a. Yeah. Of course, when, and then when. Yeah, we have a when down there. Warning, export all, enable all functions will be exported. Oh, head mismatch, 98. Ah, yeah. We want the colon here. Oh. I need more tea. Or stop streaming. So yeah. So format entry already defined. What did I do now? 107. Ah. No. What doesn't it like? 107. Oh, we have another one down there. How did that get there? Oh, actually, that's the one where we wanted to add escape cast to check characters too. So what we actually wanted to do is call escape characters on this, and then tell it that it should quote, no, it's dollar quote. And something's wrong. Do I need to backslash this? No. Well, for real? Oh, both work, but Emacs likes the other one better. So we want to escape all quotes. Dollar backslash. Okay, and let's try this out. Compile it again. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, it didn't save. Okay. Too much windows here. Move Emacs on the border. Oh, come on. Now I did the same mistake again. No. What did I say? Syntax error in 98 before 98. Here. So what's going on? Why would it syntax error here? Didn't we? Oh, the backslash, the. So we need to do this. Function format entry already defined. Now we got this again. Yeah, that's because we have this one. Semicolon forgot. No, it's fine. So now we try escape characters. And we basically use our IO-libs thing here. So I like this one because it basically that's the use case. So we try this here. So we get this like kind of nested thing. And then we call dgram logger. Oops. Logger escape characters. And we try it out with 4 and 5, so characters that don't exist. So it basically does nothing. That's good. And now we basically want to escape all blanks. $blank. And we want to escape them by $\\. Seems to work. So if you do IO list to binary, yeah, we get the double backslash because that's how strings are printed. So if you use a different character, if you use like character big A, oops, not variable, $, then it would just put an A in front of it. Well, I believe this is good enough. Can we test our format entry key value? So when it's not an integer, not a boolean, and not a float. And we actually, what we also want to do is, do we want to, this is actually wrong. Because what we want to do is we want to put quotes around this tilde-p, and so we don't use ILO format, but we use term to list. Does this work? No. Term to binary something else. What's the primitive function to actually print something? I think it's in Erlang. Term to binary is something different. I knew this. Integer to list, integer to binary. Is there not a generic one? IO list to binary, IO list size. So it's anything to list. I thought there was something. There's atom, binary, bit string, but you always have to know what you're doing. Integer to list, pit to list, port to list, ref to list, tuple to list. Nope, there isn't. So we need IOLib. What does IOLib print do? Many lines. No. Oh, actually, we need to think about like the formatting, because we need to be careful that we don't want to do basically character limits that we get. We don't want new lines in there. That would be very bad. Let me check the format. Which one is it? Pad, precision, and because there is small p and big P and W, so it's string syntax, yes. And then there's standard system, use the output element atoms printed within quotes. If they can certain unembedable characters, atom characters larger than 255 escaped unless the Unicode translation modifier is used. Floats are printed accurately as the shortest correctly rounded string. Gets longer than one line into many lines. We don't want to use P. We want to use W. That's true. Printable range. Maximum depth. So that's probably something we need to think about eventually. If you get large stuff. So yeah, we need W in all these, basically in all these things. So we don't need curly replace tilde P with tilde W. Because we definitely don't want to have new lines inserted in our line protocol where a new line has a meaning. So yes. But for the escape characters, what we want to do is actually we want to do IO-lib format of just the value. Then escape that, and then prepend to that basically atom to list key and equals quote. And then we want to, in the end, we don't do this. We want escape characters, and then we do just an IO list format. Of, again, tilde W equals, then quotes, and tilde S should actually do it. And that's it. And basically here we want to pass the key and as a value the escaped one, the escaped printed one. Getting too long now. Oh, Emacs confused. Or me confused indenting things. Yeah, this is wrong. So this is key and that's the value. And then there's one of those missing. No, not one of those. One of those. And the accumulator. So what does it do? We call IO list format. We format the key. And then we escape the character stuff for the formatted stuff for the value. That should work, I hope. I mean, we can try it out. Oh, wrong shell. Haha. Yep. It's undefined because it is, because it's written wrong. Ah, come on. IO list format with 2 arguments. Oh, colon missing. Lots of typos. I think I need to stop now. I'm doing too much typos. Okay, export all this used. So what we want to do is we want to call key value where value is not an integer, not a boolean, not a float. We want to call it with all kinds of things. Dgram, we probably should write tests for this stuff, but not today. So we have key foo value 5 3. And what's this third thing? Oh, an accumulator basically. Yeah, empty list. So it's actually doing, what's it actually doing? Equals and then the I probably. So what we want to do is we want IO list to binary. On that. So we can actually read what happens. So it actually does integers correctly and it does float correctly and it does true correctly, I hope. And if I put any other atom here, then IO list format. I'm really stupid. IO lib. Okay, found a bug. Let's compile. So it actually uses the atom and actually quotes it as a string. So that's correct, because the only unquoted strings allowed here are true and false. So if this is a string, oops, that's wrong. So why does it do this? So apparently we have stuff going on here. Tilde s doesn't like nested strings. I thought it's supposed to actually do the right thing. Let me IO format. I thought tilde s actually take IO lists. So it should actually take our character lists. So foo normal list. Foo, yeah. And then we nest the list. Oh, actually we need to do string. Did we do p? So it's this would work, but if this is w, then we would get this. So where did we put the w? Okay. Is boolean is float, but we get a tilde s here. Oh, but that is wrong. that actually needs to be S if the value is printable. Oh boy, so we probably break this out into its own thing. Case value. No, and we want to call the IOLib function. Oops. IOLib deep char list. This is actually correct. Deep char list, term, boolean. Deep character list in Unicode range. So actually, would this work with binaries? Yeah. But what would IOLib deep char list do with a list like this? A list of a binary. Is this true or false? Bets are off. It's false because it doesn't like binaries. But S likes binaries, so there might be an Erlang function for that. IO list size. I'm wondering how this is done in format. I'm assuming IOLib uses probably format. IOLib format fwrite. Format args options. Catch. Test modules loaded. Oh, that's a built-in. Fwrite. Build scan format args. So build options. Chars limit, get option, chars limit, build small, count small, whatever. What is this magic? Oh, that's the build, but we want the scan. So that gets a format, data, scan, atom to list format args, binary to list format args. So it actually collect format args. What's it doing? Print, collect modifiers, field with. So it collects the control characters. It uses IO-list to JAWS. There is actually an IO-list to JAWS function. Is this defined here, or is this a built-in that we don't know about? To JAWS. Ah, so what does it do? IO-list to JAWS. So it actually does its own IO list parsing here. Oh, come on. How do we get out of this? Only 3 viewers left. Hardcore. So we want what we want. So we wouldn't get any values that are actual IO lists. So we can actually case value case. So we use deep jar list. Just do it. Deep jar list term. Because it would work stuff that comes out of IO format. So if it's a deep jar list, off, because then we can actually call it with true. So if it's a deep jar list, we call tilde s. And if it's false, then we call tilde w, so we can actually format anything. And a semicolon here, and an end, and a comma, and then we need to actually v equals get the result of this, and then put v in here, and then we can actually get this into a line again. It's nicer anyway. So we do IOLib format, and then key, and then the escape jars. That looks decent, yeah. Compile again. Ah, come on, yeah, because it's IOLib. I'm really losing my concentration here. It's a long day and a bunch of code. And probably everybody left already or fell asleep. Who is not asleep? So that's good. Now we try our former thing. Now we are playing, and now we actually, what happens if we have a quote in here? Then it does a backslash quote. Yeah. Yep. Yep. I think that should work. Well, let's remove the export all and try it out once, and then probably it breaks, and then I need another hour for actually debugging this. So we have log test. Actually, how did we test the SUSL stuff? Oh, this is already the log test stuff. So this is with supervisor report. So actually we need to provoke SUSL logging by actually starting it again. and then look at the InfluxDB if we basically got something. Probably need to look at other things. Oh, we got errors. We got errors. Oh, that's the query. So actually, just let's restart this and then look at the error messages. Yep, got error. So we got a few failures. Oh yeah, something didn't work out well. So apparently the file got made into a list. We didn't want that. Okay, okay, okay. Oh boy. So what did it then like? Log ID is okay, service, UDP error, unable to pass, and we got line, this is good, but why is file suddenly replaced by this ugly monster? So how is file getting there? So this is metadata. So it's not doing anything. So we change this to W. But it should actually be a string. Let's see if we have funny characters in there. So actually the file is just application controller. Okay. Let's run a few experiments. IO format, tilde W /n, and we pass it X. So P does something else as W. Oh, that is annoying. So we broke it by using tilde W. So this is a problem. So we do F right. So there's the format string modifier. C, E, F, D, S. Binary or atom. So the P thing, you can say, the P thing does the sensible thing for flat list of printable characters and outputs these as strings. So as soon as we go to W, so we can either get the automatic thing that it does the automatic string stuff, but then it wants to indent. And that's just the maximum depth. So more work for us. At some point this whole IO format thing isn't really convenient anymore. So we have the problem that we need to do probably this thing. For the format tag also. So if it's a deep character list, so we just return this, so we don't need to store this. If it's a deep character list, we use ~s. And yeah, for now it's good. And otherwise we can use ~w. Okay. I think that's good enough. Oh, wrong window. No, that's also the wrong window. Where's my window? Ah, come on. Just had it here. Oh, it's this one? No, it's not this one. Oh, but we can get rid of this one. So that's our influxdb shell. That's our... Oh yeah, that's the right one. So we do rebar shell, which compiles, and if it works, it actually does something. And now we forgot to look at the output of our console. So let's do this again. Oh, that looks good. So it actually ate it up. I like that one. No error anymore. Do we see anything here already? No, because why? Because we don't have a message. So actually, what do we have in a supervisor thing which we could filter here? So now we got all the information in. So for example, we would have a domain. But we don't find a domain. So how do we figure out anything? Can we do star? Ah, but then we have to be quick, or actually do 100 and still be quick. So that should actually show us everything. So what we do is we start this, and then we run this again, and now we can actually dig through if we got our supervisor report here. No. Oh yeah. Oh, look at this. So we get all kinds of things: log test, progress, OTP SUSL, application controller, PID, info, no node at no host. This is pretty cool. So we got all kinds of like fields now. Cool. Ah, that's interesting. So we get, sometimes we get a list. So where did we get this list from? So that's a progress report, that's a progress report. And that is not a progress report. But it comes from OTP SUSL. It comes from the supervisor. Ah. So apparently we are stumbling on supervisor stuff still. So that's the progress report application. So the application works now, but the supervisor is somehow confused. So it's supervisor started. So what's the... started at, that's the node. And there we have progress. Ah, ttref's still there. Okay. So you didn't fall asleep. So I think we need to dig through this next time. Oh boy, again more logging. Really wish this would just work. So this is supervisor, and there we got, actually we need to make this smaller, much smaller, and much larger, so we can actually see what's happening. But oh yeah, it's a little bit better. So you probably can't read it fully, but I can read it. So we have log test progress, dgram logger progress. So we have the application controller messages are actually fine now. But the supervisor message, kind of like the started thing, is actually the whole, it's a, well, we could actually leave it there. We could say it's good enough. It actually works. It's basically the started thing. It basically tells us what it started. And then it basically has supervisor is progress. So we could actually filter this. So when we select supervisor, we get the progress reports, and supervisor comma started, we get these, well, I think it's good enough. I think we commit this and push it. Yeah. So I'll do this right now so you can actually look at it. So it doesn't stumble anymore. It basically, so application stuff, you can see application, we get application and application controller. Yeah, that's the thing. So we could also say we want application. Application controller. No? 1L. So now we kind of like filtering out our progress reports. So we see when applications get started, we see when supervisors get started. Well, this was a bunch of work. So we could actually then, so how do we see which supervisor? Trying to figure this out. Supervisor info. There's actually nothing. It's just the supervisor progress. It doesn't put the supervisor its name in this thing. Supervisor progress, supervisor, local. Oh, the local one. So that's basically, we probably have this. Oh, that's weird. Started at supervisor type unit, and that's our values. So the interesting thing is that while we have this, we are missing the local thing here. So we had this. Oh, I see the report. Well, the supervisor argument in the report should actually do this. Do we have a supervisor? Oh yeah, we have a supervisor here. Progress. Oh, we're getting two supervisor things here now. I'm so confused. We get all this. ID, dgram logger, PID. Oh, that was why it's not named probably. This one is named and the other one is not named. Whatever. We get the ID. It's good enough. Okay, so let's push this. Still didn't have time for. Oh, this is not the thing I want to push. Oops, sorry. Open Twitch, and we actually are in log test now in checkouts, and we want to actually open this one. Yes, there's lots more stuff here. So that's commented out. Well, probably should have broken this down in more. Oh, it's good enough. We just give it a I think it's good enough. Stage and push. Oh no, commit, forgot the commit. Commit and push branch. Okay. So this was a long one again, 2 hours, but we actually fixed one issue. Oops. Always jumps around. So let's turn a new window. Kind of like lost my. Nope. 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 So GitHub. So we go dgram logger. So we should actually link our, no, not a URL. We actually want to get the commit. No, we don't want to reference an issue. We want to reference a commit. Should probably have. I just need to look what the issue is. No, dgram logger commits. So yeah, that worked. And we can close the issue. So we did our issue. So 3 more to go now. Okay. So time to call this a day. Yeah, we made some progress. The SASL logging was a little bit of work that it actually formats everything. I'm no longer convinced that basically we probably should have written a generic formatting thing that can format everything, kind of not using IOLib. But yeah, I mean, this output formatting is always messy a little bit. And at least it works now. So I can actually put it on my GRiSP board for the solar heating control, and then next time we can actually see the SASL things and error messages, and so we can actually make progress on the actual embedded system finally again. Okay, So thank you for watching. Again, here's the issue list. Yeah, this one was too long actually, but the last ones were only 1 hour and we didn't get anything done. So, and I had a little bit more time today, so I wanted to finish this issue. The other issues are easier to fix actually, by the way. So yeah, everybody feel free to pick an issue and fix it. So we can actually get oh really, you are not an Erlanger. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, yeah, thanks. Happy about that. So, well, I mean, watching these logger stuff is basically um, well, jumping in at the deep end. This is like pretty serious. Ah, okay. Oh, you had Prolog. That's useful. So you know the syntax. Yeah, cool. Oh, modular synthesizers. Well, build one out of a GRiSP board or a module. But it's probably yeah, it would be probably better with GRiSP too. More power. Okay. Um, yeah, thanks for sharing this. And everybody, thanks for watching. Probably see you next week, or maybe I can actually shoehorn someone else to actually doing this for me. So I have a free Friday evening. We'll see. So the logger stuff will probably maybe needs a little bit of polishing, and then we can actually announce it as a like 0.1 library where people could actually look at and improve. Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice weekend. Nice rest of the day, nice evening, wherever you are, and enjoy everything. So let's go to the offline screen.